We are gonna play with your name, Sumayya Ahmed. How do you pronounce your name? You pronounce your name slowly for me.
Sumayya Ahmed.
And you say it so beautifully. I mean, I wish okay. Sumayya Ahmed. You are the executive director of the Black Metropolis Research Consortium.
Yes.
Welcome. Welcome. So the first question is, what is the BMRC?
Okay, so the Black Metropolis Research Consortium is a lot of things. It's a consortium of 29 libraries, archives, and museums. I would say it was started in 2006 as an intervention. We say an intervention, archival intervention, historical intervention, looking for the traces of Black experiences in Chicago. So it was set out with as this idea of wanting to be the steward of Black history in Chicago, or one of the stewards of Black history in Chicago. And we started off by sending archivists into local collections to see, where are the Black people? So that's African American and all African diaspora peoples. Where are their experiences? Where do we have the documentation of that? So the films, the videos, the papers, the diaries, and then how are they being kept? Who has them? What's the public access to them? And then, through some other grant work we were able to spend another 2 years with some of our member organizations actually organizing those collections, making surveys and databases. And now we have something on our website, which is a portal we can kind of search our members and see, okay, if you're interested about a certain aspect of Black life, where are the records of that? If you hear about a certain Black person or a certain group or certain organization or certain event, you want to know more about it. A lot of times people come to our site, look in our portal, and try to find records about that. I would say we're a piston, a mechanism, a steward. We're just trying to make sure that we remember that Black people are remembered the way they want to be remembered, and that we are collectors and stewards of our own records as much as we can be.
Well, I just got hip basically to the BMRC. Maybe it had crossed my consciousness before, but never really, stayed there. What are the when you say consortium? What are the other groups and institutions that you're associated with?
Sure. So we have 29 members right now, and I would say we're growing. We could have more members, but we're trying to make sure that people the organizations that join us are actually on the same page as us with the focus on Black experiences in Chicago. I'll go through it. Art Institute of Chicago was one of our members. They have amazing records about Black architects. And just Black artists from the Chicago area. Chicago History Museum obviously has a lot of records about Black experiences in Chicago. The Chicago Public Libraries, so especially thinking about the Vivian Harsh collection at the Woodson branch on 95th Street, which is near where I grew up, and then also thinking about the Harold Washington Library special collections downtown, but then all the other libraries too can have things that are relevant to Black Chicago history. Chicago State University has actually some really important collections that relate to Black Chicago history in their archives. And the Cook County Archives, is also one of our members. DePaul University has some important collections. Dominican University is one of our members. The DuSable Black History Museum and Education, obviously very amazing collections related to the history of Black art and Black history in Chicago at the DuSable. IIT, formerly now it's called Illinois Tech. They have a lot of interesting documentation, of course, obviously about Bronzeville and about some of the destruction of neighborhoods in that area. Loyola University is one of our members, up at Loyola University Chicago. The Newberry Library, which is a really rich collection of different kinds of things about Black experiences, and they're also still actively collecting. Northern Illinois, so a little bit outside of Chicago, but they are a member, and they do focus a lot about Black experiences in that area. So we are originally started to really focus on Chicago, but Black people live outside the borders of the Chicago proper. So we have someone like Shorefront. So we have these organizations that we call community archives. So these are your smaller organizations where people getting together saying, hey, we want to document our community's existence. So Shorefront Legacy Center, which is documenting the history of Black people on the North Coast. So like Evanston, Winnetka, and they have the long history of Black people settling there from like the 1890s. We have other smaller community archives who've just joined us recently, like the Chicago Black Social Cultural Map, which is part of the Honeypot collection. We have the Haitian American Museum of Chicago. And there's even this really great collection at Columbia College Chicago called the Center for Black Music Research. I mean, just really dynamic collections documenting Black music. Rebuild Foundation, Southside Community Arts Center, also started by Margaret Burroughs, who started the DuSable Museum, and the National Public Housing Museum, which is one of our newer members, and Moving Legacy, which is documenting African and African American diasporic systems of dance. So they're documenting the history of the dances themselves, but also of dance troupes and the legacy of African American dancers, doing West African dance in around the country. So we have these all of these members are like very different in what they're focusing on, but there is this thread of, right, Black experiences, Black diaspora. And obviously some of these organizations are predominantly white organizations, but that's where we come in, because we go in and say, okay, where are the Black collections? Where are the Black people? And that's what we're kind of focusing on.
Well, most of us are commoners. We're regular people, just like myself here. We don't do anything special, quote unquote, or notable, quote unquote, but we have crossed paths with people
Mhm.
or family members who did something notable. But some of those archives we don't really care about. We throw them out, or we don't know what to do with them when somebody passes. So how do we know if some of our pictures and things we did are notable that needs to be in the archives? How do we know? How do we find out? Talk to you.
Well, I mean, notable is this all, they say beauty is in the eye of the beholder. So notable is in the eye of the beholder. And so first of all, it's notable to you, first of all, like if this is documenting your family, your friends, your experiences, I mean, that's first of all, you to be the first person to know, is this important for, documenting who I am or who my family was or what we did? And then if you want to see, okay, does this matter to people outside of me? It might matter to people outside of you, but not for the same reasons it matters to you. So they might not care that, oh, this cousin played in minor league baseball. What they might notice about your photos is like, oh, like they might see this is what the apartments look like in 1930s in Chicago, or look at what they're wearing, or oh, that block was demolished in the 70s, but look, they have a picture of it. Or look at that mural. That mural's not there anymore. They got painted over. So people might see things in your photos or your papers that are significant to them and not necessarily to you. And I think that's the beauty of archives, right? So you are saving your things because it has this meaning for you, but other people have secondary reasons for why they think your things are important. And it's also important to document everyday life, because it's actually everyday life is the thing that it's harder for us to replicate, because we all take it for granted. So you don't think, oh, I need to write down today. Like if you were writing your diary today, you probably wouldn't write, I check the time on my cell phone, right? Because that just wouldn't seem like something that would be notable that you would have to write that down. But that might not be a given for people in 50 years as to how you would check the time, or what is a cell phone? Maybe we've moved past that. So anything that we can help us remember, document what we're doing now is important in a way that makes this time make sense to people in the future. And it also, um, sometimes people are just surprised to know, like I love reading things about even not too distant past, 20 years ago, 40 years ago. And you really see that, like, okay, this is what people were doing, this is how they were thinking, this is what they were motivated by. And that's something that a lot of times now, especially now, people need the motivation to see that other people were going through the same things, and and trying to address these issues in the past.
We could talk forever. Final question. Can the study of history inspire activism?
Yes, I would say unequivocally yes. I think right now you have a lot of people, and especially in the field of Black archives, or even say any archives of any kind of people of color, marginalized people. You have a lot of people from our communities turning to the archives for inspiration, because they know, okay, we know that, it's never been easy to be Black in America. So we know people have been going through this. How did they do it? So some people are they're looking for lessons, but they're also looking for inspiration. So we see these stories of, people who sacrificed, people who studied. I mean, I am just, enthralled by, you can just look at the history of, for instance, something like, so I talked about the Vivian Harsh Library, but look at its predecessor, was the George Cleveland Hall Library, and that was started to address all the Black people coming to Chicago. And look at the study circles they had, the book circles they had, the book clubs. Look at all the people coming there, and just think, and then what they were discussing, the topics they were discussing at that time. So they were really being very seriously thinking about the Black predicament and looking at Black history and and they were looking to Black history to help them go through the times they were in the 1930s and 40s in Chicago. And so I think, yes, for sure, that the archives can spur and empower activists.
So if people want to learn more, or I find you on the internet watching the computer or whatnot, can they go online? Can they go to one of your events, live events? What do we do?
Sure. So, right. So we have the BMRC. So we are an independent organization hosted by the University of Chicago. So you will find our website is bmrc.lib.uchicago.edu. We have our 20th anniversary this year, so we have a lot of cool events happening. One of them is our symposium on Black Chicago, happening June 17th and 18th in Hyde Park in Chicago. Everyone's welcome to attend. We do have a suggested fee if you can pay, but if you can't, we still invite you to register and attend. It's 2 days of a lot of thinkers and artists and people thinking about the history of Black Chicago and the present day Black Chicago. Yeah, and I just, we have Instagram, we're on LinkedIn, and Facebook. So people, you can find out about our events through those channels.
Sumayya, thank you so much.
Thank you, Marc, for the invitation.